So last week we talked with our friends, the Dangers, Brian and Jen. And if you haven't listened to that conversation, it was really great. But one of the biggest takeaways from that conversation was people need an entry point if they want to travel. You can, but you're more likely to fail if you just jump in head first. Say, I'm going to live 10 years on a sailboat. I mean, that's pretty drastic. But
it just doesn't work. Typically, it doesn't work.
Typically. And that's typically when we see people who, like for van life example, they are working a 9 to 5. They've been doing it for 40 years. They're retiring and they want to live in a van for 5 years when they're retired. Those are the people who usually give up first, not because they're retired, but just because they went from one lifestyle to another so quickly. And we talked a lot about like that point of entry. And I'm really glad that this conversation is coming right on the heels of that one, because this conversation today is such a great point of entry for travel.
And if you've ever wanted to visit somewhere with a low risk barrier, I think that this episode is for you, because Kyla has been able to travel and stay at these amazing places because she's house sitting or dog sitting.
Yeah, it's an amazing way just to get your foot in the door and start traveling without having to pay for hotels. I mean, you have to you have to get there somehow. But I love the idea of house sitting, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But we've house sat before. Not anything as cool as what Kyla does, but we have house sat before. And another thing I want to talk about with her today is the idea of slower travel. She gets to be in these places for longer periods of time, but not just that. She gets to live in a real neighborhood or in a real house and kind of get that, what is it like to live here experience, which is something we love.
Yeah. So she gets to know what it's like, and if she actually does like living there, or she wants to peace out and go somewhere else.
Yeah. So we're just going to jump right into it. This is our conversation with Curated by Kyla. All right, Kyla, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so excited to talk to you about house sitting and all of your various travel adventures and how you have made this lifestyle work, because it's an unusual one and it's something that we're very interested in. The whole house sitting gig idea as a way to travel. I mean, we've done a tiny bit of it.
Yeah, and we liked it. We did a little bit in Hawaii.
A little bit in Seattle too.
Yeah.
But we're just going to jump right into letting you introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Well, hello. Thanks so much for having me, you guys. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Kyla. I feel like the best way to describe myself, 9 to 5 girly with the ultimate travel hack. Because I do work full time, but I would call myself a part-time traveler. Part-time, kind of slower travel, and figured out, like I said, the ultimate way to have the best of both worlds. Yeah, that's pretty much me. I am Dallas, Texas based, but somehow end up all over the place.
I love it.
I don't really want to get necessarily into your job, but for clarification, are you taking time off from your job, or are you able to work remotely, or how does that work?
So my schedule's hybrid. So as long as I'm in office 1 week out of the month, the rest of the time I kind of can travel however I like. Sometimes I will take time off, especially you're in a location, you're like, I don't necessarily want to every single day that I'm there, have to work. So I will try to take some time off, but I am still fully employed as a hybrid worker.
That's a great setup.
Yeah, that's a great setup. Yeah.
That's so nice. I mean, the whole working from home thing is nice, but you get to have that little best of both worlds there too, where you get to still have like a community in the office, like you have a real network, and then you get to go off and say, bye, see you in 3 weeks.
The running joke in my office is where are you at this, even, on camera when we do our Zoom, like, where are you at? I'm like, well, I'm here, there, but I'll see you guys in 3 weeks. I'll be in office when you need me.
I love it. That is that's a lie.
That's amazing. And they're okay with it. They're just like, cool, you do you get your work done. And then.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
So Kyla, how long have you been doing this? You house sit while also having a home base. How long have you been doing this ultimate travel hack?
So I actually started last year, the tail end of the summer, I would say. So the fall. So last fall is when I really started, and it kind of came about because I was wanting to move to Alaska, of all places. I know. Wow. And everyone's like, how do you know if you're going to like Alaska? Like, I mean, I traveled there before, but never lived there. It's totally different when you live in a location. And so I was trying to brainstorm, how can experience Alaska in the winter? Because that's what everyone's telling you. You got to go in the winter if you like it. And I was brainstorming with my mom, and we were just like, how can go there without necessarily like paying for a hotel or an Airbnb and a car? And I remembered and kind of that I'd seen a website about house sitting. And I was like, oh, bingo. It's like you can hang out with pets. I'm never alone. Like I'm a solo traveler, but never truly solo because I'm with pets and I'm in a community versus staying at a hotel. Sometimes. So
Right.
I took the plunge. I joined the site and realized I love Alaska. I mean, who knows? I could probably end up there, but that was kind of how I got started, was to figure out how to live somewhere and if I would like the location.
Yeah. So how long were you in Alaska
Yeah.
then?
So I was in Alaska 5 weeks in the
Wow.
winter and had
Wow.
the best time. I know everyone's like, Alaska in the winter? It was
Wow.
amazing. Absolutely
You
amazing.
liked
Absolutely
it.
beautiful. I loved it.
And you're a southerner too, so it's not like you're used to snow or anything.
Oh, I mean, Texas girl, we get ice, but like actual like, wake up in the morning, there's snow all the time. Like I wasn't used to that. And it's completely, for me from Texas, it's otherworldly because we don't have mountains here. It's all
Yeah.
Yeah.
flat.
Yeah, we've been to Dallas. We know.
Like Dallas, we got, skyscrapers and
Right.
cows and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's about it.
Alaska.
That's really funny.
That's a,
So,
Man, that's about as different as you can get, as like Dallas to Alaska. Like, where did your intrigue for Alaska start? Do you love the mountains? Do you love outdoors, or what was it about it?
So I actually so currently I work in finance, but before that I worked for an airline, and so I kind of had that little bit of travel ability, and went to Alaska in the summer actually. So I'd never experienced Alaska in the winter. Went to Alaska in the summer. I was like, this place is kind of cool. No pun intended. It was kind of awesome. And and I just, kind of kept going or kept thinking about wanting to go back. And then I left the airline industry in finance. And then, like I said, same thing. I still had that itching to like, maybe I want to experience Alaska. But that's why I first got out there was through the airline.
Wow. So where in Alaska was the house sitting job? Were you like close to like Anchorage? I mean, Anchorage is pretty much the only city, I suppose.
yeah, Fairbanks. Yeah.
So I was in a, to say a suburb of, because there's not a lot of towns, but yeah, I guess a suburb of Anchorage. So about an hour north, in a town called Wasilla, and it's beautiful. Like the drive. So you have Anchorage, but then you drive north, and you're just driving off. I think it's Highway One. There's one highway, all the way up to Fairbanks, and that drive is absolutely beautiful. It's like small town living, but you still have access to Anchorage.
So you get online, you see this house, like you're like, hey, these people need a house sitter. You apply for it. You get on a plane. You fly to Alaska. It's a place that you haven't been to. I mean, you went in the summer, but you really haven't been to this location. You don't know the people. You don't know the suburb. You don't know. I mean, you don't know anything. So first of all, my first question is it easy for you to make friends? Like you seem like you have a really like contagious personality, and you just want to like it seems easy to talk to you. But two, like you get there, like what does that look like? What does like how did this go down?
So I will say previously you do interview. So I did interview with the couple via I think it was FaceTime, FaceTime, Zoom, depends on some sort of video chat to see if we're a good match for each other. And that after that, I like I said, yeah, flew to Alaska.
Yeah.
They picked me up from the airport. They take me to their house. Um, they had a separate, like a guest house, like a completely. So I stayed at the guest house for the night,
Wow.
and then the next day we kind of go over the lay of the land of how everything works, and then we do the handoff because they're traveling, so I take them to the airport, come back to their house at that point, move in, and are taking care of their pets. So we're basically like switching off. And then
Wow.
same thing when they come home, picking them up from the airport and doing the whole switch as well. And yeah, pretty much continuing daily life with their pets.
Wow. So how many pets do they have? Are you a pet person, or is it they're
I
just like, I'll
am.
take care of them?
It was.
Okay.
And you have to be. I feel like you absolutely have to be because, for this anyway. Like there are other situations that you could not have pets, but I will say
Mhm.
that the exchange is usually for homes with pets, and I'm a
Mhm.
dog person through and through. I don't have one currently, so that's
Mhm.
why it worked out perfectly. You get to hang out with
Oh,
pets, and I get to hang out in a cool place at the same time. But yeah, they
I
had
love
so two house sits in Alaska. One had two dogs and a chameleon, so that was cool.
that poor thing in Alaska.
I know it was, yeah. So and fish. They had like little fish. I forgot about that. Little
Okay.
fish. And then the second house had two dogs as well.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm a dog. We're both dog people too, and we do have a dog, and that makes
You
traveling
do? I
so much
know.
harder.
It's so cute.
he's,
yeah.
he's great, but he makes traveling a lot harder. We always
Yeah.
have to take that extra step. But you've also found, like, I feel like you really have mastered travel, especially solo. Like, you can just bop around wherever you
Yeah.
want. You get the companionship of a dog without actually having the responsibility of a long-term relationship with one. This is
Yeah.
like you've mastered it.
So, all right. So, you get into this person's house, you take care of their dog. Is there money exchanging hands for your time there, or is it more like, hey, no, you're staying here for free, and thanks for taking care of our dog, but you get a free vacation out of this? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use Trusted House Sitters. There are a couple
Oh,
websites and platforms out there, and Trusted House Sitters is strictly an exchange. So my services in exchange for accommodations. Everyone, both platforms, the homeowners and I guess the house sitters, we pay an annual fee to join the site to have
okay.
access to the platform. But as far as
Hmm.
like me getting money or yeah, me getting money for my services. This platform I use, there is none.
That's
Mhm.
but still, I mean, you're working on the
Yeah.
road. Like, you
Yeah,
don't need that income. You get a free place
Yeah,
to
you have a
stay.
free place to
yeah.
stay. Like it
And I
cheaper
will
cheaper than a
say,
hotel.
Yeah.
and that's the thing, the cost
Yeah.
of there, like I said, there's an annual membership involved, and I like to tell people it's kind of like when you are reselling, like say your grandma gave you some weird lamp from like the 1950s. You could take that lamp. Like you're like, what am I gonna do with this pretty lamp? You could take
Yeah.
that lamp, down to a local, antique shop or, some sort of consignment store in your town, and you could get, eyes of a couple hundred people, or you can post it on eBay and get eyes on it with thousands of people. And you're like, well, I don't want to pay eBay. It's like, well, you would probably get it sold much faster and you get more value out of paying just a little bit. So that's why I like to explain trusted house sitters. Like, yeah, you could post your services on Facebook for your friend group or that one community, and you might get a bite, but if you actually go to a service and pay for it, you're paying for that value of people already want a house sitter. So you don't
Yeah.
have to fight, like there's not a lot of issues, there's not a
Right.
lot of
Hmm.
asking because it's right there for you.
That's a really good way of looking at it. And that kind of leads me to my next question of you're going through a platform. Does that going through a platform, does that give you extra securities, like extra safety? Are there background checks or anything? Because that's always, especially as a solo female traveler, like you're, I would think safety is always a concern. It would be for me. What does that look like going through a platform versus just like finding a random person on
Yeah.
Facebook, which kind of sounds sketchy, I guess.
Which there are people out there that they do like find like on like websites like Facebook.
Right.
Like for me personally, I wanted that security. Trusted Outsiders is the biggest platform. They have a and when you sign up, you have different tier levels. There's three different levels, but you do have that support. So if something were to happen, you're like, I can't even, thankful that nothing has happened to me, but
Okay.
and I hope nothing happens to anyone. But
Right.
if something were to happen and you need to remove yourself, you have that support versus, oh, like I found this person on Craigslist, Facebook. You know, also I have a premium membership, trip
Okay.
cancellation. So, you know, if I'm going to Alaska, that's a couple hours away from here. Or you
Yeah.
can travel, or
Just a
you know,
little
you
bit,
can
right? Yeah.
just a little, you know, just about a 7 hour nonstop flight from
Oh
Texas. You
my
know,
gosh.
no big
Yeah.
Yeah.
deal. But if something were to happen like the day before they canceled their trip, well, I've already planned and bought tickets and whatnot to go out there. The premium membership offers a insurance for trip cancellation, so I could still go out there. I would be reimbursed or for hotel accommodation. I think it's up to like 3 days,
Okay.
so that I can at least figure out what I need to do and then help to get me back, reimburse me to get
Wow.
back to my
Mm,
where I need to
it's
be.
nice.
So I always tell
That's really
people,
nice.
yeah, the premium that's with premium membership, but just the support staff that's with basic as well.
Mm.
So you still have that support.
You're paying a little bit to eliminate a risk.
Okay.
That's good. I mean, we always buy travel insurance too. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Like you never know what's going to happen. I mean, just last week we were both supposed to be in Guatemala. I got sick, and so I mean, thankfully we were okay. We got refunded from my side, but yeah, you never know what's going to happen with traveling, especially when you're relying on somebody else's plans.
Can I ask you how much what's the difference? Do you know the pricing, like tiers
Yeah.
for that?
It is, I believe, 109, 129, and then the premium was like about 200,
Okay.
250. There's always a nice promo code floating out, you know, somewhere to make it worth your while. But yeah, but if you think about it, I mean, I had looked up the average cost of a hotel in the US is like $200 a night
Yeah.
for one
I was
night.
just about to say that.
For
I was going
one
to say
night.
that's the cost of a hotel for a night.
And that's like a Motel 8. That's not even a nice hotel
You're
anymore,
right.
you know? So, yeah.
You're
Oh
right.
my gosh, you're from Texas. You'll appreciate this. We have to go to Texas in a few days, and Lubbock is on our list. We have to go through Lubbock. And I looked up a random Hyatt place in Lubbock, and it was going for $500 and something a night. I was like, in Lubbock, Texas.
So
So hotels are out of control right now.
we're bringing our
What the heck is
tent because
going
we don't
on
have
in
our truck.
Lubbock, Texas.
Lubbock. I've never been to Lubbock, so maybe it's great. But I just saw that. I was like, this is out of control. We're sleeping in a tent. We're never going to get a hotel again. So 250 doesn't seem that bad to me.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back. Let's go back to the scenario. You get on the
Sure.
plane. You're flying. You meet these strange people. They leave. They leave these pets. How? Like at what point? Like I mean, now you're alone in this house, and you're starting to make a routine and everything. Does it feel awkward or weird to you to be in somebody else's house and be amongst their like living things like and try to figure out, or is it pretty immediate? Like you get comfortable, you're like, yeah, this isn't bad. Let's go.
So for both of the houses in Alaska, I was introduced by the homeowners. So they kind of give you the lay of the land. So as far as like, oh, like how does the dishwasher, you know, like I knew that and, you know, gas stove and those kind of things. I would say if anything, people make their house a home. So it was very homey. Not I say nothing against a hotel, but you know, like if I was there, I was in one house for 3 weeks. So like staying in a hotel for 3 weeks, it sometimes I guess could get old. So having people's it sounds weird, but having people's stuff is almost kind of comforting. You know, like they've made their house very comfortable for themselves. So when you are there, they make you know, it's very comfy, you know, very comfy couch. Um, different foods. You know, a lot of they're gone for a long time. Like you know, a lot of them have food in the fridge. Like you're welcome to, especially in Alaska, everyone has tons of food on standby. So you're welcome to food. So you know, like just having those things like salt and pepper and extra spices that you didn't have to go out and buy and condiments was cool too to have. And then like I said, having being in a community, I think being in a neighborhood also can just be different because it's just very. I keep saying homey because that's the best way to put it. Very homey, so it doesn't make you feel um, alone. As for me, because like I said, I'm solo
Yeah.
traveler. Yeah.
And my guess would be that you kind of feel, no, slightly more immersed a little bit faster. Like you feel like you get to see what life is really like in that place versus staying in the hotels, which are usually in the touristy areas. Or, I mean, we've house sat twice now. Once was for a friend in Hawaii, which was amazing. And then the second one was in Washington. It was like in a really nice suburb of Seattle, which we could never have afforded this house, which was a really fun opportunity. Yeah. But both times it was like, we got to experience what it was like to live in an area that, one, we couldn't afford, and two, we may never have gotten the chance to even visit. So I don't know. Do you feel the same way? Like when you show up in Alaska, you get to know, like, you get to see the routines, what people, where I'm going with this? Yeah. Do you feel like that?
And I will say, because, my goal initially when I started was to see if I liked Alaska. So being in a neighborhood versus, I will say in Anchorage, a lot of the hotels are like city center. So, having to shovel snow, that you don't do that, at a hotel. So having to shovel snow and just navigating roads in the suburbs, navigating grocery store shopping, like things like that in an actual neighborhood, was eye opening and, like I said, immersive. And yeah, meeting the neighbors was awesome because for me, like I said, we're in a hotel, people come and go versus, in the neighborhood, they see me every morning, they see me with the dogs. A lot of times you are introduced to the neighbors anyway, because you just want the neighbors to know that, hey, there's some random person staying in the house. So they're around to help if something happened too. Yeah. So that was nice too.
That's nice.
Like I said, really, I really would say I kind of immersed myself in the culture. Alaska, I feel like is a culture.
Alaska's got its own culture. You're right. It is. Yeah. We've been there. Not in the winter. You're braver than us. We were definitely there in the summer, but Alaska's its own thing. It is a culture.
I want to bring this up because Sarah hasn't touched on this at all, but we need to bring this up because the house that we house set in Washington, we were
in this house for like 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah, we were in this house for 4 months. We were introduced via a friend, and we talked to them via phone. That was it. We never did Zoom. We never Skype or anything. And by the time that we were getting to Seattle, where the house was, they were already on their like cross Canadian adventure. Like they're going in this RV.
Yeah.
And so we pull up to the house, and immediately we notice that there's something different about this house. And they have this giant Goofy and Pluto statue hanging over the front door.
Like life-size Goofy and Pluto.
Life-size. And they haven't told us anything about this house. And so we go inside and we see Goofy and Pluto, like paintings everywhere, Goofy and Pluto plates, cut, like everything is everything. The shrubs in the backyard were cut like Goofy and Pluto. These people just loved Goofy and Pluto.
It was so weird.
It was so weird. So
great house other than that.
Yeah, it was amazing. But I say all this, have you been surprised by any of the places that you have been? Like, has there been any like weird things you're like, what is going on here?
That's a good question. I would say I've been lucky to not be surprised.
Okay.
Actually the same thing, the second house sit that I ended up doing in Anchorage, I actually did not get a chance to, like, we were just in the moving and with all the ins and outs of everything, I didn't also get to see her house. And so I was pleasantly surprised because it was up in the mountains, and so the view that was I think the surprise. I was like, this is your view every morning?
Good surprise.
Yeah, that's a really good surprise.
Like, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
So that was more of that. And then I did 2 house sits also in Hawaii. And I think the same thing was the view. The proximity to the ocean. It kind of was, oh, like when you say you're close to the ocean, like you were really close to the ocean. So that kind of, those kind of experiences where it's like pleasantly surprised, not really, I guess, shocking surprise.
Okay, those are good surprises. I have,
like, no shocking surprise where I'm like, oh, you didn't tell me that, next door to you is like a mountain man that, cuts his wood in his underwear.
Right.
And like, no one mentioned, but no, I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
Sounds like Alaska.
Yeah. So,
Oh, wait, I was going to say that's
very
probably.
Alaska.
Yeah. I was going to say that's probably, you probably don't have those like bad shocks yet, or hopefully ever, because you do go through a platform. This was like a friend of a friend. And granted, this was 7 years ago. So like even video calling wasn't as big back then.
Right.
Yeah. Security, like going through a platform. And this is not sponsored by Trusted House Sitters or anything.
no, yeah, this is.
But I've seen them. But I've seen them online. I mean, we've looked at it, but since we have a dog, like it's not really possible for us. Like nobody wants our dog coming to their house to stay with their dogs. Our dog wouldn't even like that. But yeah, security is important. And I was going to ask, where in Hawaii were you?
So I did two house sits in Oahu.
Okay.
I have a love for Oahu. I like all the islands, don't get me wrong, but I have a special love for Oahu.
Okay.
But that I've done both on Oahu, and actually, yeah, both in Oahu.
We've never been to Oahu. We've only been to Maui, and it was just for that house sitting job.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure if I pulled up onto any Hawaiian island, I'd be happy. Like, just
sure.
drop me there, and I'd be fine. But
Yeah.
Oahu, that's like the dream one to me. Like,
so you've been to Alaska house sitting, and then you've been to Hawaii. Are those the only 2 locations that you've been to so far?
So far, only 2, and then I started here in Texas locally, to kind of get my feet wet to see if I wanted to continue doing it and get
That's
reviews.
That's a good tip.
That is, yeah, like definitely start locally, and then I feel like it builds up your profile, because it's harder to let someone that you don't know stay at your house hundreds of miles away versus in your town when you have that security of like, hey, by the way, and that's how I started. I was like, hey, I'm down the street, like I don't have any reviews, but I'm down the street, that I'm here. I'm not flying on a plane or, a train, a bus. I'm
That's
already
smart.
in your town. And we actually met beforehand to be like, hey, I'm real. So that is, yeah. But I've done that. I do have one in Seattle. So I'll be in Seattle in October, but that's the 2 places I've been, or 3, I guess, so far.
We love Seattle. That was home for us for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get the pretty colors and
That'll be a
the
good time
moody
to be there.
mountains with the clouds and the rain.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Oh, man.
That's really smart though. Like, good advice of start somewhere local so you can meet and build up those reviews. Cause I mean, that's important. Like we've Airbnb'd our home, and you're right. It's weird to have somebody come in your home unless they have reviews. Like, we're really picky about that. And it's the same idea. You want to find that security again. So, okay. You've done some amazing places in the States. I think probably the best that the States have to offer. You're doing Washington, Alaska, and Hawaii. Like, it doesn't get better than that. But is international an option on Trusted House Sitters? Is that something that you would consider?
So it is an option. The platform is originally a UK platform. So they're very big, and actually really three places: the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, surprisingly. So there's tons of house sits all over the world. For me personally, I think as I continue to build my profile and my platform and continue reviews, then I think I'll be ready to go off of go away. I would love New Zealand, Australia, like somewhere out there.
And they're expensive.
They are. That's the thing. So expensive. And so if you could figure out how to offset that cost somehow, and accommodation is, that's a very big part of your trip. So figuring out how to minimize that with house sitting, that's kind of where I would like to be. So, I don't know, 2024. Crossover the Pacific Ocean on that side of the world.
Oh, that'd be so fun. New Zealand, Australia would be like, that's one of our dream places. New Zealand especially. Yeah. Australia looks cool. Yeah. New Zealand looks awesome.
If somebody has a house in New Zealand and doesn't mind Kramer, like, please let us know, because we would love that.
I will say,
I'm not ashamed to ask.
Guys, people can house sit with their pets.
Oh.
Yes.
We need to look into it again.
Yeah, it was like people there are people on the platform who I guess advertise that they're traveling
Right.
with their pets, and that's the only way to travel. And there are, I guess you think about it, people of all demographics. So there's people
Mhm.
who have small children, so they don't mind a family coming in to house sit because
Mhm.
the pets are already used to small children around. There are people whose dogs love other dogs, and if your
Mhm.
dog loves other dogs, or if your cat can be around other cats, you could do
Yeah.
that. Few and far between, but there are times that there are houses with no pets, so
Mm.
they just don't have any. And so I guess there's the option that you be like, hey, I have one. Is it okay? But there are
Yeah.
definitely houses out there where they don't mind you bringing a pet because their dogs are already,
Mm.
or cats, whatever kind of pet, are already used to that in the house.
That's good to know. I mean, it's been like 4 years since I've looked into it, but I was looking into it. I don't remember where we were looking at going, but I remember I was running into it. It was like, no pets, no, don't, you can't have pets. And I was like, oh, so I just kind of gave up on it. But the first house we ever house at was in Seattle, and they had zero animals. Like, that was the best setup ever, just
Oh,
because like we had nothing to care for except for their really nice, weird house.
yeah, except for all the goofy Pluto stuff. So,
Yeah.
It was a
so
weird
Pluto's
season in our
naturally.
it
lives.
was. So
Yeah.
you've you've talked about how nice it is to kind of travel slow and and visit these amazing places. Is there any negative side to this of house sitting for somebody? Is there anything like what is there any cons to this?
Yeah. So many pros, but I will say there are cons. The con being, at the end of the day, versus staying in a hotel or Airbnb, or like staying away from a house sit, is you do have to take care of people's pets. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not into that and you want to like go explore for 10 hours of the day, you don't have that ability because you have to come back at some point, and you have responsibilities at home. So there could be that if you
Mm-hmm.
don't like that. For me, I don't mind that break because like sometimes I'm working, so I'm usually at the house for 8 hours anyway. The first half of the day, take care of the pets, and then after work, go do my activity for the evening, and then come
Yeah.
back and finish taking care of responsibilities. So I will say that con.
Mm.
If you are looking for something where you can just be gone for 10 hours, or um, I guess the flexibility of, you do also have to come home every night. So that whole idea of, oh, we'll do like a 2 day, this or that, you can't do that. You need to be back home. Even if you house it for like a snake, you still got to come back, or fish. You still have to, you still have to come. There are
Yeah.
all
Right? There is a responsibility.
there is a responsibility. I will say, kind of like what we touched on earlier, if you don't know what you're getting into, you could be really surprised. So, really
Mm-hmm.
asking questions during the interview to kind of gauge, is this house it right for me? But I mean, even after all the questions, you still could run into something you just didn't expect. So, I guess expecting the unexpected could be a con versus showing
Right.
up at a hotel. You just boom, you're set, and your
Yeah,
your bed
Hmm.
gets made every day.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And that made me think, you said obviously you have the responsibility of taking care of the pets, but are there other responsibilities besides a pet? And maybe this differs from house to house. Like, you were in Alaska and you mentioned having to shovel the snow. If you were in Hawaii, do you have to cut the grass? Like, are there other responsibilities? Like, do you have to maintain the entire house, or do they typically hire out those other things and you're strictly there to take care of the inside of the house and the animal? What does that look like?
So I've not had situations where I've had to do a lot of stuff. Um, in
Okay.
Hawaii, it was an apartment, a condo, so
Oh,
not a lot of
easy.
maintenance. But I see, because I see the houses, I've applied to them and I've seen them, and from other people, heard of different responsibilities, and even in the listing, yeah, you sometimes might have to cut their grass, clean their pool. You know, if you're there for extended amount of time,
Okay.
The collecting the mail, like simple things like that.
Okay.
But some people have
Okay.
farms, so you have
You're
to
mucking
do
the
farm
stalls out
work.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might be more than what I'm really ready to
Yeah.
bargain for. But I mean, I could pull
If
the
it's
melon.
a
I like
cool
cutting the grass every
location,
now and
Yeah.
then.
if it's a cool location, maybe you're like, I don't mind,
Yeah.
going in the stables if I'm in a really awesome location. But for me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Maybe if I
Yeah.
were in like Montana or something, but you mentioned like cleaning out the pool, and if I'm getting a free pool to use, like I'll clean that pool out all day. Like it's
Oh,
fine
yeah.
by me. I
Well,
want
and
a
if they've
pool.
stocked the refrigerator with snacks, I mean, that settles my debt, like I'm fine with that.
Give me some snacks.
Yeah.
So, okay, besides trusted, actually, one more question before the other one I was going to ask. Okay, so you mentioned you have to do the interview process and you have to build up these reviews. Is it pretty competitive on the platform? Like, I mean, I'm assuming that like the more interviews or the more reviews you have, it probably gets easier. But have you been turned down at all? Like, how many people are applying for these positions?
Definitely had rejection, especially at the beginning because I didn't have any reviews. And sometimes I feel like I would just like
Right.
go for some of them, like some beautiful, crazy house in California. And I was like, uh, who are you? With no reviews, wanting to stay there. So definitely had rejection. I say it gets easier the more reviews you have, and I will also say when starting out, you have a better chance of getting the lesser popular um, house
Okay.
sits. Like maybe someone has
Okay.
like an unpopular part of the country, or like they're kind of away from the city center, so you have a bigger chance
Right.
of probably landing a couple of those. But yeah, I would say there's definitely locations, not even just in US, around the world, that are very competitive. London, New York
Okay.
City,
Right.
Hawaii, those kind of places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you even with just a few reviews, you've already managed to snag some of the best in America.
Yeah.
So, I mean, keep going for that California coast one that you were talking about. But that's good to know that there is competition. So if you get rejected, like it's not just you. It's obviously it's a process. It's a growing thing. You're building up those reviews. But I think that starting local tip was really smart. It's
Really,
low
yeah.
risk for someone to hire someone who doesn't have any reviews, and it's low risk for you.
Right.
Like, do I like that? So that's really good. So besides trusted house sitters, what other platforms are there? Have you used any others, or what other resources would you recommend for people who are interested in this?
There are other platforms out there. There are some that are specific to regions. Like there's one that's like specific for Australia. I I've not used them because most of them are paid, like a paid annual service. And so if I'm gonna pay,
Gotcha.
I want the one with the most options for me. And
For sure. That makes
a
total
lot of the other
sense.
ones just don't have as many available, and for what I'm looking for someone else, that could be perfect. And I think, I not even think, I know there are a couple that are completely free to sign up for. uh, but like I said, for me personally, I want to see all of it. I want to see a lot of options. I want the long list of multiple options, multiple chances. More options, you have a better chance of landing something, especially in the beginning.
I completely understand. That makes sense. Like, I don't want to have to pay for 10 services. One's
Yeah,
plenty.
I get that.
And
yeah.
I've heard Trusted Housers. It seems like a very reputable name, but
So, is there a place that you wouldn't house sit, sir?
why do you ask these questions?
I just want to know, like, is there a place in the world, in the country, you're like, you know what, I don't need to house sit there.
Ooh, that's a good question.
You don't have to answer this.
Okay, only because I guess a place I'm not interested in, which would be maybe the Midwest, because I'm from Texas, so it's
Okay.
like I've
Yeah.
been there, done that. But I would go Chicago. Chicago would be the exception.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Chicago's
I would
cool.
do.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
Chicago a lot.
Chicago's cool.
it would have to really be worth my while.
I'm the same. Like, you don't want to. I mean, you've got your own home already that's in the South, so you probably don't want to do the South or the Midwest where it looks the same.
Right.
Like, why not just stay home and not have to care for an animal, I guess.
That's
yeah.
exactly it. I would go just about. I like going west for work because, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm still working. So when I'm thinking time zone wise, if I go east, I'm losing an hour from Texas. If I go west, I kind of gain time back. So, for example, like I said, in Hawaii, I was working 4:30 Hawaii time, to make my like 9 to 5 job or something like that, or somewhere around that time.
Right.
But then I finished at like 1 in the afternoon, and I had the rest of the day to do whatever I wanted. Versus going east, I'm losing an hour from Texas.
I get that.
Yep.
When we lived in Seattle, we love still going to the West Coast because most of our clients are East Coast. We would get up, start work by 6 o'clock, and then we had the whole afternoon and evening. It was it was great. I love that. We would totally rather get up early versus working late in the day.
Yeah. By 2 p.m., the day was ours. Yeah. Which was great. Yeah. It was super nice. So if we wanted to get started, or somebody's listening right now and they're wanting to get started, like, is there any practical advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out?
I would say definitely get started early. Before you like want to do that dream destination. So if your dream destination is going to Sydney, Australia, I would start before you're ready to go to Sydney, Australia. Start local, create a really great profile, and talk about your love for pets in the profile. Talk because the people that I've house sit for, I've become friends with over the months, and just talking about interactions, and a lot of times them saying people speak on wanting to come to Hawaii to hang out at the beach all day. It's like, well, hey, that's great, but this platform is for an exchange. So what about your experience with pets? So
Yeah.
really not hyping, but really building up your profile to speak about pets. Get some local experience, start local, build up your reviews so that, like, so when you're ready to go to Australia, when you're ready to go to London or Cape Town, South Africa, wherever your dream destination is, you already have credibility on the platform, and like I said, makes you stand out versus the thousands of other people on the platform.
Right. That's good. And one more question that just crossed my mind. Repeat with any of these people that you've worked with. Any chance of that? Because you said you've built friendships up. Is that something that, next time the Alaska couple has to go somewhere, would they call you first? Does that ever happen? Or
So
could it happen?
Hawaii was actually repeat. Funny story about that. I had applied to house sit for them last year and didn't get the first, didn't get it because they got someone else, and they had reached back out. They're like, hey, we need someone for this trip. Are you interested? And like I said, that one I really didn't apply for. They reached out to me, and I was like, okay. So we did go through the app. Like we put everything in the app. And then the second time that I went, same thing. They called. They're like, hey, we're going to so-and-so. Do you want any part of this trip that we're on? Because I couldn't they actually gone for like over a month. So I would love to have stayed the whole time. But they're like, do you want any part of this summer? And I was like, yeah. So definitely
awesome.
repeat. And then even in Dallas, I did at the beginning, I did a repeat here because, like I said, the dog gets used to you. They're like,
I would choose a repeat. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, we've had people house up for us, and we're picky, especially if we have to leave Kramer, which we don't too often. But I'm the same way. Like, once somebody knows our house and our pet and we trust them, like, I don't want to go searching for somebody else. Like, just please come back. Like, I think that's a cool thing, and you're building that relationship that you did a good job and people like you. That speaks volumes.
Yeah. So if we were following you online, like, or do you post about where you're going and like what you're house sitting and all that? Do you do that online?
Yeah, so and it happened because everyone else was asking me. They're like, how are you?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was like, you know what? I think I will. Like I will post. So I will say that
Yeah.
I post my adventures and try to give little tips here and there about
Yeah.
how to get started and what makes a good house sitter and the day in the life
Mhm.
because like I
Yeah.
said, people were asking and I was like, yeah, why not? So
Mhm.
I do that on TikTok and I do that on
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah.
Perfect. We're going to link everything down below so people can find you, follow your travel adventures, wherever that's going to be. I guess it's Seattle next. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. For now,
Exciting.
who knows?
So
It's only
fun.
July, so anything can
Yeah.
happen
Yeah.
between there. Yeah.
And it looks like just from your Instagram when I was going through it, it looks like you travel in addition to house sitting. So plenty of stuff to follow. But Kyla, this was so much fun. I'm
Yeah.
so glad we got to do this. This has been hugely beneficial for us, and I'm sure other people out there who are looking for a way to travel. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And like I said,
Yeah.
I was super, super pumped to talk with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to What No One Tells You with Chris and Sarah. If you have a comment or question that you want answered on the air, be sure to send us a message to hello@chrisandsarah.com, or you can call or text our phone number at 423-825-9572. Thanks for listening.